So hi, everyone. Now to the probably one of the most exciting parts of our lineup today. I have the honor of moderating an all-female leader panel. So from great to unstoppable, that's the title of our panel discussion. I mean, these women that we have here are unstoppable, and they're all here to share their insight and wisdom as they've led teams and still leading teams and companies during the pandemic. So here we have, I'm going to start with LeBlanc, Chief Marketing Officer at Hivestack, Maureen McCloskey, Managing Director from Kinetic, Gogh, Senior Vice President at Captivate, and then last but not least, Irina Zeltser, founder of Beach Street Communications and a longtime out-of-home industry veteran. So welcome everyone, and thanks for being here with us, ladies. I'm going to have a couple of questions and then we can just have, a very lively open discussion. So all of you here, you're a part of the We Do, which is a series powered by the DPAA that really aims to unite all people working across the DPAA member companies and really help advance gender equality throughout the ecosystem. Can maybe get some thoughts on what's drawn you to We Do and why this is important to you. So why don't we have Maureen get started?
Sure. I'm a firm believer that we are our sister's keeper. To change a quote of "You are your brother's keeper," I believe we are our sister's keepers, and we've all gotten to a place where we've put in the work, we've supported each other, and so it's time to pass that torch. And I think we're all aware of the disparities that we see, especially at high senior level companies throughout the industry. And so it's just it's time to do something. So stop talking about it and get doing is really what prompted me to join the We Do group.
Great, thank you. Irina?
So I've joined the group really to support and to learn from these spectacular women and to help push the ad community as well, in that right direction. So equip the community with the tools to look at their organizations and really determine, the areas where they can make positive changes, where they can apply these permanent and effective best practices, when looking at female inclusion, but not just female inclusion, but also diversity.
Right.
And so, We Do is a place for female leaders, yes, where we do collaborate, we share our knowledge, and a group where we feel more empowered, a place where, we can share and learn.
Kind of building upon that, Alice, what are you most looking forward to as, part of the We Do? Can you share some thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Irina, I really love what you said about taking action, right? Because that's one of the things about We Do. It's like the E in We is about empowerment. It's a very active verb. And that's what I think is very unique about this group of women, that we're not just around, we love to be able to share our stories, share our experiences, and be our authentic selves. But then the exciting part of this is an action-oriented group, right? We're creating mentorship opportunities. We're creating a space for people to be able to find ways to grow their careers, to grow their voice, to grow their industry knowledge, to create allyship, right? So all of those different things and the new programs that are coming on board, we've already started some networking opportunities. We will continue to build more mentorship. We'll continue to build more dialogue and training. I think training and learning continues to be a very central focus of this group. And so that's what I kind of love about being able to do something actively rather than, being a little bit more on the waiting and watching sidelines.
Yeah. And then Kira, any thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that's been said that I completely agree with. And I think, overall, we all completely agree that representation matters. I think, we've seen it on every side, whether it's in advertising, as marketers, but also as leaders and people who are sitting at tables and entering spaces. And I think it's really important that, I felt that I had to act and take the responsibility to show up in these conversations and support all the other women in our industry, the women trying to navigate the industry, those who do not have the same privileges as I've had as well. And I think, mentorship is a huge resource to help, infiltrate the industry with more like-minded, talented, amazing individuals, like the ones on this call today. And I think it's really important to have those honest conversations, both with the larger, board, all of our, active members, and then of course all of the women a part of We Do.
Yeah, I mean, that's really wonderful. I feel like it's a privilege, right, to be in this position, to be able to, I think it's a huge opportunity to instill change, the responsibility that we carry to provide the means for others, and then the mentorship theme. I think that's really important because been so focused on building our own career and our own career development. So now it's really time to kind of give back and, set the path for the next generation. So agree with everything that everyone's shared. Thank you so much. So on to my next question. Now we're here, it's post-pandemic. There's a lot of reflection, a ton of learnings. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you guys can talk to me a little bit about your leadership style and how that has changed or evolved while navigating the new normal. Can we maybe start with you, Kira? I know you just spoke, but would love to hear from you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for some background, my first day on the job at Hivestack was the very first day that school shut down in 2020. So, great day, perfect day to start a new job. And I think it kind of threw me into the fire to actually have to act immediately, which might have been good. I didn't have time to overthink. I didn't overplan. It was really about what can you prioritize right now. And I think what it did is, one, it forced me to triage. Prioritization, organization were really big tools for our team to work well together. Our entire team was pretty much onboarded throughout the pandemic. So we've all, inherently only existed in this organization during the pandemic. So, maybe that was, a benefit. But I think for me, in terms of my leadership style, one, it really, really forced me to trust and empower those that were in the positions around me to do their jobs and have autonomy to do their jobs, and just to support them where needed. I absolutely think, compassion and kindness had to be extended to the next level, because, people weren't okay. It was a struggle on my end, and knowing the chaos that was happening behind the scenes in my own experiences, I have to only think and imagine that there's even more going on outside of other people's experiences and off camera. And I think it was really important to be able to, extend that compassion and lead with compassion and understanding and helping people, where can I help you? How can I support you? What works for you? And having flexibility, allowing for people to do the work they need to do in the timeframes that they decide, as long as their work was being done, I thought was a really important piece of my leadership style.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Maureen, I know that, on the agency side, spending time in the office is so important, right? So critical. Everything is a team collaboration, FaceTime. Can you talk to us a little bit about your leadership style and how you managed to lead teams, virtually or in this kind of hybrid mode? And how is your style today? How has that evolved?
Sure. Well, similarly, I guess, funny story to Kira. The day we all left the office thinking it was just a few weeks that we'd be gone is the day that I found out I was pregnant. So it, for the first time, I had to really think of a little bit more about myself as opposed to my entire team, which I always sort of see myself as a den mother, they're mine. I look after them as best as I can. So it was really interesting in those first few days, but like Kira, it was, to be honest, I mean, it was like deer in headlights in those, before we all were sent home and people were, clients were canceling and you're not prepared for that. But what you do is you just go into this mode of take the emotion out of everything, stay focused on what you need to do. And the first thing was, how do you calm the teams? How do you keep them focused? And all I know to do is, is to be there, for them. And we were doing that in not only New York, but across Chicago and LA. I think we led with more empathy than we ever have, because so much craziness was going on in the world outside of just our own work. And I think, you know, for me especially, I think that's what I learned is I learned to calm down a lot. Like Kara said, trust more and champion, you know, the team more so than we ever had before, because they really had to believe in themselves more so than they would when we were in the office and could physically feel it. So did I do everything right and perfect? God, no. I think I learned a lot. And I think the biggest thing is just to, you know, staying relaxed, staying connected, and just supporting people and lending an ear whenever they needed it.
Absolutely. And I feel like having gone through all of this and experienced this, I feel like everything now, most things seem very trivial.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curious how you also led your teams and, you know, overcame some of the challenges during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I heard from the women who spoke before me is mirrored in my experience, right? There's a lot of, in the face of uncertainty, I think I'm very impressed with all of us, our respective organizations, and maybe even humanity as a whole, that we combated uncertainty with compassion, with humanity, with authenticity. We gave people space to be themselves. It changed the dynamic of what we do. We have to be a lot more intentional, right? Like Maureen, you're talking about walking in and just dropping by and saying hi to people. We don't drop by randomly anymore. It has to be intentional. So this intentional leadership, this intentional compassion, and recognizing people as their authentic selves. For all of the pain points that arose during the pandemic, I think we all also got an opportunity to be more real with each other, and it did advance a conversation in not just diversity, but inclusion, belonging. I think all of us can say, we know which of our colleagues have a dog. We know which of our colleagues have babies. We know, like, we've gotten to know each other in a real way, and that contributes to what I think we're all talking about in terms of trust. We trust each other's work and we trust each other's output because we also trust each other's humanity. We've invited all of each other into our homes. And so while I won't say the C word because it's already been said twice, while that part was really difficult for all of us, in the midst of all of that, I got to know how well we can perform. And that gives us a little bit of confidence on a go-forward basis. And it enabled a lot more, I think, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, realness, growth, all of the good things that Irina, you were saying, you know, in the future, the next generations won't know what we went through. It's thank goodness.
So it's really interesting. I feel like nice is not something, the word nice, right? Is not something that really like aligns with the corporate like values, you know, at least pre, you know, pandemic. But I heard a lot of words that like resonate with nice, like kindness and honesty. And like, you know, I love that. I love that, you know, we've gone through this and now we're really talking about, you know, how can we champion the team? How honest check-ins, you know, compassion. These are just not terms that, you know, we typically or historically have heard in that corporate environment and space. So, you know, it's just, again, thank you so much for your thoughts and honesty. Really, really appreciate it. So moving on to, you know, the next question, right? I have a couple of stats, you know, as we kind of look into across digital out of home and other industries, there's still a very obvious disproportionate gender representation. And I know we touched a little bit upon that, but let's talk about it in a little bit more detail. So in media, only like 37% of leadership roles are held by women. And then in tech, that number drops to, you know, 24%. And you're all very familiar with that. And we talked about this, you know, in Irina's past panel about the imposter syndrome. So do you think that plays into how you view yourselves and your work days? Can we talk a little bit about that? Irina, you want to?
Sure. And I recently learned about that, Susan, as I was curating the panel that
Yeah.
I had the honor of being on with you. But, working in tech, and I think in general, working in any industry, it requires a lot of sacrifice, right? So, you're working through weekends, sort of this like continuous commitment, in sharpening your skills, right? And with technology specifically, rules change, they break down, they become obsolete. So I think it's important to note that even though, women go through imposter syndrome, so do men, right? But the thing is that data shows that women are reporting it more so than men. They feel that they have to work that much harder, than their male coworkers and counterparts to really prove their worth, and ultimately are experiencing this imposter syndrome. So, listen, I'll be completely honest. I've experienced it. I've experienced imposter syndrome, and I did a lot of research on it, and I've been there. And the way I've overcome it is by sharing my failures. It was about accepting those failures, but really loving myself too, as sort of trite as that may sound, but it's really that self-compassion, which is really critical. But also part of that critical piece is finding a workplace, where you're able to share your successes, right? Feeling, your successes, your feelings, and a place that really allows me and you, anybody, to learn openly. Right. So one thing to always remind yourself and myself is that there is a reason why you were given the position, right? You were hired because you are good, you are talented, and the title also reflects that. And so just remember that. So be compassionate and know that you are worth it, and you're worth, you're the seat at the table that you're sitting at.
Right. Alice, how do you rise above the challenge? Let's say you're like in this moment of like, oh my gosh, am I good enough? Is this perfect enough? Like, what are some of your strategies? How do you overcome that?
I think the word that was used earlier, self-compassion, that's such a huge piece of it. Recently actually learned that word during the pandemic. Thank you, Brene Brown and Atlas of the Heart, those of you who have read it. But it's giving myself that equanimity. I mean, I walked into the pandemic already with a little bit, because of the stats that you mentioned, right? Because of the lack of female leadership in the industry that we're in and the faces that we see all the time, I already walked in with a little bit of overcompensation. And I think a lot of the women that I work with, we are high functioning and to the point of being over functioning individuals. Then when the pandemic hit, we took that over functioning and we applied it to being able to pivot and to be flexible and to work from home and to be a partner, parent, guardian, whatever we had to be. That led to the burnout. And then because we were burned out, I was like, I'm not good at this. But the realness of the situation was I was fine. I was failing, and failing, it doesn't mean that, I should continue to berate myself or imposter. I have to be as forgiving to myself as I am to my colleagues when I see them in a certain bit of any type of, instability. We all pitched in for each other, and I just had to give myself that same grace. So kind of what we were saying, I failed a lot. I messed up a ton. I lost my temper when I shouldn't have. And I let myself sit in my little hole. But then when I came and gave myself the same grace I gave other team members, and forcing myself, my leadership style of having to give that type of space to my colleagues and my teammates actually gave a good example and a roadmap for me to give that same, I think, grace to myself along the way.
I love that. Grace and forgiveness, just being able to, move on and acknowledge that we're not perfect and we're not meant to be, right? I was going to go around and ask everyone for, one piece of advice. If you were to give it to anyone at any stage of their lives, whether they're starting in out of home or if they're kind of in midway into their career and trying to, step up, or, for people who are just any piece of advice, if you guys have one, I would like to go around. Start with Kira.
Yeah, I mean, kind of segueing from exactly what Maureen just said, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that goes hand in hand with the imposter syndrome. It also goes hand in hand with being challenged and being in new places and new mindsets and new jobs. be okay with that feeling. I think it drives me as well. And I think it's okay to kind of work through another Brene round. You can do hard things. You can do it,
Yes.
you know? and I think, you know, one is be kind to others, be kind to yourself. Don't sweat the small stuff. I think, you know, you can easily burn yourself out when you pick every single battle to fight.
Yeah.
So prioritize which one you're going to fight, and that's okay. Have the blinders on for the other noise and be able to, you know, try and stay focused. And then don't be afraid to ask for help or advice. I think learning from
Correct.
people, leaning into your people. And if you don't have those people, that's why we have mentorship programs, even like we do, or even members of we do. You know, we're also open to supporting each other. Reach out to people and network, and ask for advice or help where needed. I wish I did that sooner.
One of the big things I learned during this is to set boundaries. We mentioned it a bit ago about prioritization and advocating for self. I spent a lot of energy and burned myself out trying to be everything all the time. And setting those boundaries doesn't mean I'm doing less. It means I'm deciding about where I'm going to compete, what battles I'm going to fight, and knowing I don't have to fight them all. So that's a tool that I'm really grateful for, that I arrived upon during this, and I hope to continue to use going forward.
Some of the younger talent on my team had asked for me to give them to answer some questions, and one of the questions was, what are some of the areas that, you know, they need to work at? And I sat back and thought to myself, you know, they're 1, 2, 3 years into their career, like that hasn't developed. They're still trying to figure out, you know, their place and finding their voice and finding what they like and what they're passionate about. So, you know, I sort of sidestepped that question because I'm like, you don't know enough in this early years of your career what you need to become better at or areas you need to work at. So the best advice I can give, and I've said this before on other things because it is the fundamental saying at the front of my head at all times, especially when I am scared to step left or right, is to walk through the fire. When you feel like you can't, when you feel like you don't want to, when you feel like you're unsure, just say, you know, whatever you want to say and just walk straight through the fire.
Go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much, you know, for just sharing your thoughts, your experiences. I hope that for the viewers, this was very helpful. I loved I took so many notes and I wish I could summarize everything. But again, your piece of wisdom is very, very valuable, and I'm sure the viewers will definitely appreciate. Again, we'll share more details about, you know, we do and the organization, what it does, and ways to, you know, join and attend all the different sessions. And again, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon on to the next session. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye.